Good afternoon, Notion friends. How is everybody doing today? I'd love to get to know a little bit about you. So comment in the comments with your name, where you're from, and how the weather is today. I'm curious. I'm in Michigan right now, and it's a cool 40 degrees, which is a nice change of pace from the 20 degrees last week. So I just love to get to know you a little bit. And also, what are you using Notion for? And how many people are on your team inside of Notion? So we'll just give everyone a few minutes to join, then we'll get started with Notion at work and how you and your team can run your marketing using Notion. If you did not tune in last week, as Notion came out with Notion for Startups, which is super exciting because if you partner with one of their partners, is Notion has given you $1,000 credit for your workspace, which is super helpful, especially when you're a young company. So if you go to notion.so/startups, is you can see if you can get that $1,000 credit for your Notion's team account. I just put a link in the comments as well. So go ahead, check that out. Looks like we have some slow starts today. So thank you all for joining in today. Elaine, Jessica, Jean-Pierre, I think you were here last week. Thanks for coming in again. Tyler, Michelle, hey everybody, hope you're having an amazing day. And we'll give everybody a couple minutes to just join in. And as we're going through today's session, any questions that you have, just go ahead and click Ask a Question, type in your question, and we'll be doing Q&A at the end of today's session, which is actually where we'll spend a good amount of our time, because then we can actually dive into your specific use case for Notion, and I can help you more specifically. If you see any questions that other people have answered or that have asked and you would also like answers to, go ahead and just upvote their question. That way it'll jump to the top of our list and we can make use of our time well together today. Cool. All right, so today we are talking about how you can use Notion to run your marketing at your startup, at your small business, your nonprofit, whatever it is Notion is going to help you get all of your marketing work in order. Starting off with an example from the Notion template gallery is we have a content calendar. Now, a content calendar is one place for your team to put new ideas of types of content that you want to work on, and then you can schedule them so that way you have a clear source of truth for all of your marketing material. Looking at our example here from the Notion template gallery, which you can get access to all of the Notion templates by clicking templates on the bottom corner of your sidebar. And templates are a perfect way for you to get inspired of what you can actually pull off in Notion. So in this example is we have a nice board, which is sorted by status. You can also change by assignee, by your deadlines, so that way you know which projects you need to focus on because that deadline's coming up soon. Clicking through any of our pages here, as you can see that you can have research and notes, and you can put any type of information inside of your cards here. Hey, Torin, thanks for tuning in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and post a link to this content calendar in the comments, and you can click on duplicate on the top corner here, and that's going to duplicate this template and move it into your workspace, so that way you can change it and modify it to however your team works. Wisconsin, all right. I imagine we have similar weather between Michigan and Wisconsin. So what I've done is I've duplicated the content calendar here. So that means that we can click on things and we can change things. We can even move them around. Now, if we look at how Acme Company is saving the giant iguanas of Roatan, is we can assign this to one of our team members. we can change the status from here as well. Or if your company needs a more complex process, is you can add in more statuses. That would be something like it's in review or it's waiting for final approval before you go ahead and you publish your content. You can change your media type, so that way you tell your team what this piece of content is all about. And then you can add some media as well. So the media you can see right here is this is actually where we can see the preview right on our cards here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually build this content calendar from scratch. Now, so that way we can show you exactly how you can build this. And the idea is we want to give you a way to understand exactly what you can build within Notion, not just only what the templates have to offer. So let's go ahead and we're going to build a content calendar inside of Notion. So inside of Notion is you can make good use of the shortcut keys. And so I just typed / and I'm going to create a new page. I'm going to name this content calendar webinar. Now, with every new page inside of Notion is we can either start with an empty page, or if you have templates available, you can always start off with a template. For our content calendar is we're gonna create a database and we're gonna make it be a board. Now we see once we've clicked on board is we have 3 cards just that are example cards, and we have a really simple progress here. So we can drag these cards from left to right to show progression as they're working through our process, and click into any of the cards and we can add anything in here. So we're going to open up a new tab here, and so that way we can see exactly what we're going to be recreating inside of Notion. So here's the template that we just duplicated. We're going to create an idea tag, in progress, in review, and published. So I'm going to change not started to idea. Then we have idea. Then we have completed, which I'm going to change to published. And then we're going to add a new tag that's called review. So we'll click on add a group, type review, and there we go. Now you'll see how things are a little bit out of order. So we have idea, we have in progress, publish, and then review. What you can do is just simply click and drag review to where you want it to be. So now you have the right progression of your pipeline. If you would like to hide any cards without a status, is what we'll do is I'm just going to drag this example card over to idea, and then you can click the menu button and simply click hide. Now, if you accidentally hide any items that you'd want to, or if you accidentally hide any groups, is they're just collapsed over here underneath hidden columns. So you can go ahead and click that, click the menu, and click on show. Well, we're going to leave anything without a status hidden for now. Cool. All right. Now clicking on inside of a card is we can see that we have assign, which this assign property, if we click on assign, is the property type is set to person. So person is anybody on your team or anyone who you've invited as a guest into your workspace. We're going to leave person as is. I'm going to click on myself here. So I'll set myself as the assigned person. You can also add multiple people to the card as well. But we always recommend having just one person who's responsible to make sure that this project is finished. Then we have our status here. So we can drag and drop review up so it's above published. That way you have your clear progression from idea to this is in progress to we're reviewing it and then we're going to publish it. All right, so now I'm going to click on this example here. So we have assign, we have status, and we're going to have link and type. So going back over to our new database is we're going to click on add a property. We're going to change this to link. And then you can click on URL. Now, this is super helpful if you want to put in a link to the blog post, if this is going to end up living on your website as a blog post, or if it's a YouTube video or an Instagram post, whatever it is you can just have your source of truth right here. Clicking add property again, we'll change this to type. And then we're going to change our property type to select. And then based on what your business is you can add any types of media that you produce. So for example's sake, we're just going to choose video, then we'll also add another type of blog, and then we're going to add another content piece for Instagram. So we'll keep it simple just with the 3 types, but you can create anything that you want there. Then we're going to add a media. So if you have any like sample graphics, or if you want to upload your open graph image, if it's a blog post, we can create a file content type, and we'll add it there. And then we'll add a deadline and a publication date. Clicking on add a property, and we are going to type media, change our property type to files and media. And then if you do want to add any of your media here, just click here and you can choose a file, or you can embed a link as well, whichever you prefer. Clicking add a property type, we'll type deadline. We're going to change this to date. And this allows you to set any sort of date as your deadline. So let's just say Friday is our deadline, for example. Now we can see November 22nd is our deadline. Another fun trick is that depending on the dates that you kind of work with, I always recommend choosing format date, and you can change the date format. So depending on where you live, you can change the date orders. Or relative is very nice as well, because if we choose relative, it's going to change the date from being the specific number to Friday. So there we go. Or if we change it to next Friday, it should say next Friday. So just a little bit more natural. Now we'll add our publication date. So that way we have a source of truth, date. And typically you would set this once your post has been published. But let's say, for example, we do publish it on our deadline of Friday. We'll choose the 29th. And now we have our source of truth. Cool. All right, so that is the basics of kind of creating the properties inside of your content calendar. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to customize our card view here. Now, by clicking property, we can choose card preview. And so you can choose the page cover, you can choose the page content, or media. So media is going to show anything that you have listed in that media property type. It will pop up here. For example's sake, let's choose page content. And now we'll see when we go into card 1, we're going to say this is example content. And then once we close out this card, we'll see our preview here. So this is really nice if you want a high-level glance at really what this project is all about without clicking into it. You would be able to set that up. Then clicking back on properties you can choose fit image if you have an image. So that way it's going to zoom it in. So that way it's filling up your full card preview. And something that I always enjoy doing is changing the card size to large. By default, it's medium, but by clicking large, it's going to increase the width. And that just gives me a little bit more breathing room since we do have a lot of projects going on at the same time. You can also rearrange or add any of the information that you would like in your card previews here. So if we click on deadline, then we see our card 1 example has next Friday as the deadline. And we can also add the publication date as well, or the media type if you want that. And then you can just click and rearrange any of these items in whatever order you really prefer to see things. Cool. So that's the basics of creating your own content calendar. Now diving into, if you work with a team and if you have a lot of your processes in order, what you're going to want to do is make use of templates. Now, templates are repeatable processes for anything that you're creating. So a quick example is if you wanted to create a new piece of content, you could just simply click on new. We'll type on new content. Then you can add whoever's assigned to it, your status, and you can do everything manually. Then you go into your page content and you would type all of your content in here. Now that's okay for like a random one-off project, but with a lot of content there's a specific process to everything. You need to do research. You need to vet the information that you have. You have other action items that need to be done to make sure that the content that you're producing is high quality and that it's engaging the right audience. So what you can do is click on the drop-down menu and click on Create New Template. Now, let's say that this is going to be a video template. We'll name this video. And if you have somebody on your team who owns all of the video work, you can choose who they're assigned to. Let's say Kyle on our team, he's going to own the video production. We're going to set the default status to this is an idea for video. And we'll change the media type to video. Perfect. Then you can go in here and you can create a heading that says research. And then we'll do another heading that says audience. We'll name this target audience. And then we'll have another heading that's distribution. And so what you can do is underneath each of these headings is I'm going to use shortcut keys. So I'll use the brackets and we have a to do and we'll say research A, research B, and then the same thing will go throughout your entire process. Now you see that it says you're editing a template and content calendar. So now I'm just going to click off of there. And now we see that we have this new video template. When we click on video, now we get this card that has Kyle automatically assigned because he's the video person. It's going to be a new idea and the type is video. We also have all of our predefined research, our target audience, and our distribution. So that way you can really consolidate your processes and shave down so much time of having to redo the same work that you always have to do. And I'm going to show you how our team at Mammoth, which is one of my companies, uses templates inside of Notion in our content calendar to make sure that we have our systems and processes in place to make sure that we are really producing high quality video content. All right. So just as a reminder is ask questions as we're going through all the info from today. And so that way we can answer all of them at the end of today's webinar. Make sure that you're upvoting questions that you share in common with everybody else. And so that way we can get to those questions here in just a few minutes. All right, so this is the content calendar for my team. So what we have here is we have new ideas, we have then planning and writing. Then once we're done with planning and writing is we will move a card over into ready for production. Then once we've actually produced the work, so we do a lot of video-based content here. And so that's what most of our videos will be. Then we'll be editing, then we'll get review and feedback, and then we'll move everything into distribution. Now, looking at all of our templates here is we create templates for all of the things that we do often. So now let's say is you come to me and you say, hey, Bill, I have an idea for this video. I'm going to say, cool, go ahead, create a new page for video. And you can see that we have our status is new, our type is set to new, and we're going to say video example. And now inside of this template is we have a table of contents at the top. So that way we have a quick high level of all of the steps that are involved with us making a quality video that's going to speak well to our target audience. And we'll go through our brainstorming. And so oftentimes is we'll just have a simple idea and we might not have time to go sit down and define our target audience and write a video script all in the same breath. So sometimes is you just want to give your team members a really easy way to get an idea out of their head. And this is what we do with brainstorming. And so you can just start typing in here, had idea, info goes here. Then once we go through our brainstorming is we'll define the purpose of this video, we'll define the target audience. So that way when we're doing our script writing is we really understand who is it that we're talking to, what's the language that we should be using with them, and then go from there. So we'll answer these questions. What's the project all about? What's the point of the video? And who's the target audience? Then we'll go through our scripting actions. So this is saying like, all right, well, for any good new video is we'll write our script ideas. Then we're gonna review that first draft with our team. We'll do a table reading of that to make sure that it actually sounds natural and not robotic. And then here is we have our script. So we can add in, hey, I'm Bill from Mammoth. And this is where we'll actually type out our script, and then we can load this into our teleprompter to make sure that we're really hitting our mark and delivering valuable content. And then you just create a new line for each different piece of your script here. Then we'll go down into our pre-production, post-production, all of that fun stuff. I won't bore you with too much of the details, but I really want to just get the idea into your minds of how flexible Notion is and how you can use it for whatever your processes are at your company to make sure that you're always doing the steps that you know need to get done to produce excellent content. All right, so I'm going to take a quick pause here, and I see that we have one question. So we just wanted to keep today really short, just to give you the idea of how you and your team can really organize all of your marketing content inside of Notion. So let's go for some questions here. All right, Julie, any plans for an Airtable integration? Right now you link Google Docs in your Airtable content planning base for content planning, but this would be nice so I can have easier access to all the content in progress. To my knowledge, there is no planned Airtable direct integration, but the Notion team has been working on an API which could open up the doors for some Airtable integrations. And Julie, I'm curious, what are you using Airtable for that you aren't using, that you feel that Airtable would be better served than Notion? So I'm just super curious and would love to dive in. Maybe we could figure out some way that we could build a system for you inside of Notion, so that way you can have one less tool that you need to use. Database view, filtering, and grouping. Okay, cool. So I agree with you. So Airtable is a little bit more powerful as far as when it comes to grouping information. That is actually one request that I put into the Notion team. So going through database view here is we can create different views inside of Notion. So if you like the board view and seeing the progression of left to right, we can have that. If you like a calendar view, so that way you can really see all of the projects that are in progress, we have that here as well. But if we click on all, this is more that kind of table database view that you're used to in Airtable. And we can see all of our new items in here. As we're scrolling down, we can see everything that's planning and writing. Now, one thing that Airtable does that Notion doesn't do is being able to put these into different groups inside of a list, which is something that you're probably talking about when you're talking about with grouping. So the best thing that you could do is you can sort your status by whichever label you've created in there. And so you can see that ours are sorted by new and planning and writing. And so while it doesn't give visual separation, it does kind of separate everything out to make everything a little bit easier to read. All right, what else do you have for me, Julie? And if anybody else has any other questions, I would love to answer them. If you want any specific examples, if you say like, hey, we've been running into this challenge with our marketing team, or hey, we're doing everything like pretty manually right now. Maybe we're using Google Docs for everything. Then I would love to kind of talk through how we can make that happen for you. All right, Jessica, creating a page and link the database. Let's see here. All right, so we're going to create a page and link the database with different filters. I don't know. I'm thinking how we would do that for you. So yeah, what you could do here is that's a good idea. So for example, I'm going to create a page that's going to say Airtable grouping. And then I'm going to do / and we'll say related, which is creating a linked database. And so that's a super cool thing about Notion is you can kind of embed any database or any other tables or whatever it is anywhere inside of Notion. So I'm going to type content here. And then Jessica, I believe what you're saying is that what we can do is we can choose our status here. We're going to click add filter, and where status is new. Cool. So now we're only showing new items here. And then I'm going to, what I just did is I clicked on our database here. I duplicated it. And now as we scroll down I'm going to change the filter to is planning and writing. And so this kind of gives you grouping. And so to explain a little bit deeper what we just did is I created a new page in Notion. I named it Airtable grouping. And then we just did / and we just created a linked database. And so that lets you create different views if you want a really quick glance at what you're working on. Thanks for the idea, Jessica. I appreciate that. Sandro, all right. How do you collaborate on documents in Notion? I really like the commenting function in Google Docs. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back over to our content view. I'm going to click on in progress. And let's look at Party versus Pro Booth. What's the difference? So there's two different ways that you can collaborate inside of Notion. One of them is through discussions. Now, discussions live at the top of each of your pages. And so if you generally want to, if you just kind of typed out your idea for a piece of content, and if you want to invite your team members to come in and read through it and give you feedback, what you do is just click add a comment, and you can say, hey, team, what do you think of this idea? Would love feedback. Thanks. And then what you can do is choose @, and then you can start typing anyone's name. So let's say I want to let Kyle know, and then I want to let Lainey know. So now I'm going to click send. Now Kyle and Lainey, they both have Notion installed on their phone, so they're going to get a notification on their phone that says, hey team, what do you think of this idea? Then they'll be able to go through and they'll be able to read some of the idea here. Now with Google Docs is you're able to comment on any item in that doc, and you can do that same thing inside of Notion here. So let's say I had some brainstorming ideas here, and let's say Kyle gets that notification from me asking for feedback. You can highlight any text here and choose comment, and then he could say, what do you think of this spin? Then he could mention me. So @Bill, clicks on send. And now we can see that this is highlighted and we have the comment icon on it as well. And then we can have a discussion just like you would have on Google Docs. And you can do that on any item in here. So we can choose that add comment and hello. And then you can go through and you can collaborate instantly with each other. Now, a cool thing about this is as well is when we go to our card preview is we can see that there's discussions happening on this card. If we look at the little chat icon and then it has the number next to it. So that way we know that there's actually discussions going on actively in that page. Thanks for the question. I appreciate that, Sandro. And then you also had, how do you notify people of changes on the page? Now, let's go back to our Party versus Pro photo booth. What's the difference? Is if you click on updates here, is it allows you to follow a page. So now once you've been mentioned in a page, it will add you. So that way you do get updates happening on that page, or you can connect it to a Slack channel if you use Slack as your source of truth for all your notifications, then that would be a good way to always loop everybody in. I would recommend creating a separate Slack channel for Notion notifications because if you do have a lot of team members collaborating, things can get very noisy pretty quickly. Especially if people are updating pages all of the time. So that's your way to comment, have discussions inside of pages so that way you have instant collaboration. And we can see that Lainey got my notification and she's looking at this right now. And you can also see who has seen the page and when they last looked at it. So that way you actually know if your team members saw your comment and they just didn't reply, or they might not have had time right away. All right, let's keep the questions coming. All right, how do you stay on top of all the notifications you get in Notion? Now, if we go to our sidebar here, you can click on all updates. Now, when you have new updates, you're gonna have a little red badge icon with the count number of all the notifications that you have. But you can go here and you can see anywhere that somebody has mentioned something. So Lainey was asked a question about something that we were working on for some team Christmas activities, or simple video outlines, or whatever it is. So this is your source of truth for all your team notifications. You can reply directly in line, so you can see all the comments, and you can just reply right from here. So that way you don't have to navigate over to that other page if you just need to quickly reply to anyone. You can also see if you did click on updates on the page that you're looking at, you can see any of the updates that were made recently. So here, Ben from the Notion team, which he's probably in chat as well. We were talking about future ideas for webinars, teaching teams how to use Notion at work. So speaking of which, if you do have ideas of anything that you'd like to see us talk about for future Notion at work webinars, I'd love to hear them in the comments. So that way we understand what it is that you want to see happen and how we can better teach you and your team to use Notion to get all your work organized and to do some of your life's best work. All right. Cool. So yeah, you're super welcome. Yeah, the follow feature, Slack integration are both super nice. So yeah, play around with them and see exactly what you're looking for and what's going to work out really well for you. So we just made it at our half hour, which is what we wanted to try to keep this at to respect your time. So a couple recapping items is create templates for all of the processes that you have that are just kind of rinse and repeat processes. And also empower your team to say, hey, if you have ideas for templates that you want to make, or if you have any ideas of how we can modify our templates or improve our processes, so that way they're more simple, or so that way you answer more of the key questions that you know need to get done, is you really want to empower your team to, if they see something, to say something. So that way you can have smooth team working together. Recap number 2 is make use of the templates from Notion. So what you can do to kind of get inspired for what you can create inside of Notion is in your sidebar. If you click on templates, then you can see different marketing templates, or if it's product management and if you're in a software related role, is you can see different sort of templates, and then you can use this template and it duplicates it right into your Notion workspace. And then you can modify it to however you and your team need to work together. Also, if you are a startup, go ahead and check out Notion for Startups at notion.so/startups. A link is in the comments as well. And see if you and your team can apply it to get the $1,000 credit, because it's going to be super helpful, especially when you're in the young stages of your business. Is any money that you can save from your monthly spend is extremely helpful. So like Notion is just super generous for doing that for us as well. All right. So, thank you so much for tuning in to Notion at Work on how to run your marketing. We're going to send you a survey to see what you thought of today's session and what you think that we could do better. I personally, I always want to know how I can better deliver content and how I can teach you better so that way you can do your life's best work. So be candid. I always want to know how we can do better for you, and keep the ideas coming. So if you have ideas for future Notion at Work webinars, even come back here, add them to the comments. Ben from the Notion marketing team and I are going through all the comments, and we're looking at what everyone really wants to learn, so that way we can prioritize that for your future webinars. Jake, yeah, thanks so much for the comment. I'm glad that it was helpful for you. And if you do have any specific questions on how to use Notion specifically, I'm going to drop my email in here. Now, I'm happy to help everybody, totally free. So if you have a specific use case that you kind of think of after this is over, I'd love to hear them. Or if you have ideas for future Notion at Work webinars, go ahead and just email that to me. And my email is in the comments here. All right, everybody, go out and have an amazing rest of your week. And I will see you at the next Notion at Work. Cheers.